What's up, world? Welcome to the world of college football, where the stories are real, the stakes are high, and the energy never drops. I'm your host, Moon, and today, we got a show that's going to hit different for you and the familiar. So sit back, relax, lock yourself in, get your favorite beverage, drink, snacks, whatever you need, because we're talking about two programs that are done waiting for respect in the college football world. First, we take it off to 305 in Miami, where FIU football is no longer a name you gloss over. This team is on the brink of a new cusp and a new dawn. And new head coach Willie Simmons isn't playing the long game. He's attacking, he's flipping the roster, he's turning FIU into a recruiting machine overnight. And then we'll head up the East Coast to Lynchburg, where Liberty football refuses to let last season's letdown define them. A team that went 13-1 in 2023, but crashed to 8-4 last year, has had a complete roster overhaul. 17 players left in the transfer portal, 13 players came in, and the battle for quarterback won. It's wide open right now for Liberty. This episode is about revival, reinvention, and programs demanding the spotlight. So buckle in because we're about to break it all down. But before we do, special shout out to DCFB Nation. If you check out dcfbnation.com, you can tap into a plethora of different articles, coverage that we have for you, and stay connected to the college football world in a deeper way. Let's get it started, bro. Up first, the rebirth of FIU football. The Willie Simmons era begins. Let's paint the scene. Miami, Florida. The palm trees still swing. The 305 still pulses with energy. And football still runs through the veins of this city. But something just feels different, you know? The winds have shifted. It's like, it's a different type of energy because FIU in their football program, nah, they're not trying to just turn the page. They ripped the whole entire book apart and started fresh. And they all changed on December the 7th, 2024. And that was the day that Willie Simmons, a two-time HBCU national champion, a coach who flipped FAMU into a juggernaut, a coach that turned Prairie View A&M from an afterthought to the standard. He was hired as FIU's next head coach. And his message was crystal clear, people. The future is now, not later, not in 3 years, now. This is more than a coaching change. This is a shift in FIU football's identity. Now, step one, you got to build a staff that can come in and win and compete. And the first thing that Willie Simmons did, assemble an elite coaching staff. And let me tell you, this staff is built to win immediately, people. You got Nick Coleman, who's an offensive coordinator, known as a quarterback guru. He coached Jacob Zeno to UAB's best season passing in school history this past year. He also brings an aggressive, air it out type of philosophy to FIU that is desperately needed because you know the boys in the 305 are all about speed, and getting the ball to the playmakers is going to matter a lot. Also, you got Jovan Dewitt, defensive coordinator, coming in, who stayed on the season last year for one reason. He recruits. His defense wasn't that bad either. He also led FIU's 2024 squad and produced a Conference USA Defensive Player of the Year, Travion Barnes. So clap it up for Mr. Dewitt. We also got Ryan Smith coming in as a linebackers coach. He's built some of the nastiest defenses in HBCU football. We got Kenneth Gilstrap, a safeties coach, who's a special teams coordinator as well. And he has a knack for a turnover creating mastermind. That's what I would call him. His UAB and Middle Tennessee defenses were takeaway machines. And he proved time and time again that he's that guy. They also got Anthony Gator coming in, who's a quarterback coach, but you might know him as an FIU legend, NFL veteran, who's coming back home to the 305 to get busy. You got Kenichi Oduze, who's the defensive line coach, national champion at USC. He was the first ever NFL draft pick, a first round NFL draft pick, and he knows what it takes to build an elite defensive front. FIU isn't just stacking coaches with experience. They're stacking winners that could be a part of the plan. Let's take it to step two of the plan. You got to dominate recruiting. And let's talk about how fast things flip for them, because FIU just signed the best recruiting class in school history. Number 1 in Conference USA on Rivals. Number 5 in the Conference USA on 247 Sports. And 19 of the 21 recruits that came in are from the state of Florida. You have to dominate your region, and that's what Coach Willie Simmons is doing already. The headliners of this recruiting class: Christian Langford, quarterback, Langston Hughes, Georgia. This kid had 5.3K passing yards and 66 touchdowns passing in his high school career. He turned down UCF, and he also turned down Liberty to come play at FIU. Talk about things shifting. You also got Sterling Joseph coming in, Miami, Edison, Florida. He's a running back, track star speed, younger brother of former FIU great Flex Joseph. Mateus Garcia, offensive lineman from St. Thomas Aquinas, who's a 2-time Florida state champion. Anthony Smith, defensive lineman, Chaminade Madonna, Florida, 6'1", 311. He's just pure disruption. King Massey, edge from Rains, Florida, 23 tackles for a loss, 7 sacks. You get the drift. He's bringing in Florida talent and keeping them home. That's why you got to love the hire for Willie Simmons, because he isn't just signing guys. He's locking down the state. Step 3, you got to own the transfer portal. And that's what Willie Simmons did, because they went crazy in the transfer portal, getting A.J. Allen, running back from Miami, one of the fastest backs in the portal. You got Dante Anderson, edge, coming in from Florida State, who's a Power 5 pass rusher who can make an immediate impact for this squad. Aaron Armitage, the edge from Stanford, who's a former 4-star recruit. Players aren't leaving FIU. They're choosing to come to FIU. That's part 3 of Willie Simmons' plan. Part 4, you have to prove it on the field. FIU's big test is week 2 at Penn State, and it's a prove it game on a national stage. And September 13th is going to be an absolute movie, because they have one goal in mind, is to beat that little school in Boca. The Shula Bowl versus Florida Atlantic is in Miami this year. I think first time since 2021. They also have a plethora of Tuesday and Wednesday night Conference USA after dark games. October 14th at Western Kentucky. The Hilltoppers will be ready. October 21st versus Kennesaw State. Coach Jerry Mack and company will be excited and ready to go for that one. It's a home game for FIU, though. And October the 29th at newly acquired and new member of the Conference USA, Missouri State. So it's going to be a lot of fun. April 5th, FIU fans, the spring game at Pitbull Stadium. It's the first time you'll get a chance to see A.J. Allen, Mr. Langford, Armitage, and the rest of these brand new talent and assets that we just acquired if you're a Florida International Panthers fans. The last thing I have to say for you, in the final word, the future is now. A national championship winning head coach, a recruiting class that flipped the script, a transfer portal haul that changes the game, a schedule that's going to test their absolute mettle. FIU is not going to be waiting around for respect anymore. They're taking it. This isn't a rebuild. This is a rebirth of FIU football. Welcome to the Panthers era. I got one last thing to say to Panthers Nation. Pause up, baby. Let's go. That's the FIU story. But next up, we head to Lynchburg, Virginia, where Liberty football is refusing to let the fire die. You had 17 transfers out, 13 transfers in, a wide open quarterback battle, a defense with new faces everywhere. The Flames are ready to erupt again, but we will talk about more after we hit this first ad break. Because you know CFB Nation has a new sponsor. You can get 125% match bonus on your first deposit when you check out our new and proud sponsor, BetUS.
Look at you out here using all these other sports books and you ain't even using the best one. BetUS. Get 125% match bonus when you use the promo code CFB Nation. Yeah, you heard me correctly. 125% match bonus on your first deposit using that code CFB Nation. We know that college football is in the off season, even though we don't celebrate that. You know, CFB Nation, we do college football 24/7. But there are plenty of things for you guys to bet on.
Who will have the most wins? OKC Thunder or Cleveland Cavaliers? Can Luka and LeBron make it all mesh to make it to the play-in tournament? Maybe you're a college basketball guy ready to risk it all for Florida to make it to the big dance.
Basketball isn't for you? Maybe you're a football guy. Well, BetUS got you covered with this year's UEFA Championship. Can Liverpool or Barcelona win it all? Will Erling Haaland or Harry Kane lead their teams to victory?
May is going to get popping when the Kentucky Derby hits town. BetUS has you covered in that way too, with all major horse racing events. Point is, type in that promo code CFB Nation and go get that money. Get that money, my friend. Check out our proud sponsor, BetUS, and make sure you capitalize on that first 125% deposit match. Let's move on along in the show. A special shout out to DCFB Nation. I'm your boy Moon. Welcome to World of College Football. And on today's show, we already talked about FIU and the rebirth of FIU football. But did you know that Liberty is up to something? The Liberty Flames play their spring game on this upcoming Saturday. And we have to take a microscopic viewpoint on the Liberty Flames and break them down before they get popping in the spring game. Fire doesn't just vanish. It lingers. It smolders. The embers stay hot, waiting for the right moment to catch, erupt, and burn brighter than ever before. That's my description of Liberty football at this very moment. Last season, the Flames went from 13-1 in a Fiesta Bowl appearance to being 8-4, lost to Kennesaw State, in a cold, forgettable loss in the Bahamas Bowl. They got a chance to grow closer as a unit with their trip to the Bahamas, but it stung. It did not sit well with the entire program to lose to Buffalo. And Liberty's response, it wasn't to sulk, it was not to fold, but to rebuild and rebuild fast. 17 Liberty Flames hit the transfer portal. 13 new transfers came in, and 14 high school recruits joined the movement. But this wasn't just all about replacing talent. It was about redefining an identity for Coach Jamie Chadwell. And the first question that Liberty had to answer, who's taking the torch at quarterback? Let's paint the picture for you. For 2 seasons, Liberty's offense ran through that guy, Caden Salter. The dude was a risk taker, a playmaker, and a game changer. Now he's at the University of Colorado, and Liberty is back at square one, searching for their next leader of their offense. First time they really had to do that since 2022. But it's time to open the door for new candidates that can come in and take the starting job and rid ourselves of what was the Caden Salter experience and look forward to something new, something fresh. Let's introduce you the first candidate of the quarterback job, Mr. Ethan Vasco, Coastal Carolina's early favorite. In 2024, he put up 2,000 plus passing yards, 14 touchdowns, 8 interceptions. He added 7 rushing touchdowns and 815 rushing yards. CFB Nation key metric. He accounted for 32% of Coastal Carolina's offense last year. Why he can win the situation in the job for quarterback? He's got the most experience. He's been in the big games. He fits Jamie Caldwell's RPO heavy scheme. And me personally, I saw this man go to Georgia State last year and totally cook the Panthers. In fact, he was sitting there chilling on the sideline with his feet back and everything because he already did his part and the game was a blowout. I've seen Ethan Vasco in my eyes. I'm a believer. Let's talk about the next guy, Mr. Michael Meredinger, North Carolina prospect who just came in, and he's ultimate wild card. 2024, light, 9 for 12 passing, 86 yards in the Fenway Bowl, but that was a 75% completion rate in his only extended action. Why he could win it? He has elite arm talent. He's stuck behind a couple of NFL guys at USC, and he has all the tools to be Liberty's next big quarterback. Plus, he has a strong arm. Let's talk about the next guy, Ethan Hook. He's a high school signee, but we dubbed him as the young gun. 2024 high school experience for Mr. Ethan Hook, 2.1 K passing yards, 42 total touchdowns. CFB Nation key metric, he's the highest rated quarterback signing in Liberty history. Why he can win it? Well, his ceiling is absolutely sky high. Is he ready now? That's the main question that we have to decipher. But if he picks up the offense quickly, he could shake up the race and make it very interesting for Coach Jamie Chadwell. Right now, where we currently stand as we enter into the spring game, Ethan Vasco is leading the competition, but the battle is far from settled. We have two guys that are currently hurt right now that are going to enter into the mix when we get to fall camp. The guy that wins it, they're going to ultimately define Liberty's offense in 2025. So there's still a lot left to be shaken out when it comes to the quarterback race. Now let's talk about who's actually carrying the rock. Liberty lost 87% of last year's rushing yards to the portal. That's not a dent. That's not a typo. This looks like an ultimate reset button. Enter in Evan Dickens, Georgia Tech transfer. He's the ultimate workhorse running back. Physical, downhill runner. He played for 14 games for Georgia Tech. His strengths, his power, vision, pass protection, and he will be a big key in this offense. Also, they have a running back coming in, Malachi Fannin Render, who is a high school signee, and he matters because Liberty lacks a true home run hitter. This could be him. CFB Nation key metric. Malachi Fannin Render averaged 7.5 yards per carry in high school. He knows how to make them pop. Julian Gray, who's an NC State transfer, comes in and he's dubbed as the experiment. Why? Because he's transitioning from a former wide receiver to running back. Similar to what we saw with Jamal Haynes last year for Georgia Tech, we have this experiment happening right now. And why it's interesting, his speed is lethal. He can handle the workload. We'll just have to wait to see if it comes up in his favor to handle a workload. The battle is open. The spring game, that's where we'll see who's ready to take the next step. Let's talk about some of the big boys up front because Liberty's offensive line got a major overhaul too. Gone are Jordan White. Gone are Xavier Gray. There are two anchors on Liberty's offensive line last season. What remains? We got to run with fresh faces and big expectations. Insert Christian Williams. He's a Florida transfer. They just acquired Power 5 talent at tackle. He played 3 years in the SEC. He has strength, size, and he's great with his hand technique. Trey Badowski was a UAB transfer, and I nicknamed him the Mauler because he has Conference USA experience. He's relentless in the run game. And beyond that, he's battled and overcome many injuries just to be the absolute dog of a player that he is right now. We got Erwell Anthony Jr., a Wingate transfer that was the ultimate wild card in this experiment. He was graded as Wingate's best offensive lineman in 2024 and key metric. He hasn't given up a sack in over 2 years. This is a phenomenal pickup for all of these big boys coming in up front. The verdict? All of these guys have potential, but they need time to gel ultimately. And the success of the run game and the success of the quarterback play is going to depend on how quickly the offensive line gels together for Liberty and the Flames. Now, Liberty's defense, CFB Nation key metric, 68% of total snaps in 2024 are gone for Liberty's defense. Marcus Clark, Appalachian State transfers coming in. I nicknamed him the big man in the trenches. He has 22 games of experience at App State, and he's doing very strong against the run. That's what you love to add into your interior defensive line. Let's talk about DJ Jackson, who's an NC State transfer, and he's going to be the enforcer at linebacker. This kid has powerful experience. He brings toughness on the inside, and that's exactly what you need. Speaking of other needs, Liberty needs a guy like Micah Pollard, Michigan transfer, a.k.a. the playmaker, to come in. Micah is athletic, instinctual, and a missing ingredient to this defense. Insert Jalen Rock, a Weber State transfer, the new face in the secondary. Can he step up and be a centerpiece in Liberty's defense? Can he be Liberty's next lockdown corner? It's left to be said, but with a name like Jalen Rock, he's perfect for times here on the mountain at Liberty. The key for this defense will be proving themselves. It's unproven. Spring reps are crucial, and we get a chance to see who emerges as the new leaders of this team. Let's break down the last key for this Liberty rebuild, the schedule. Liberty's road to the Conference USA title is going to look drastically different than it once did. They have a lot of tests early to start the year. September the 6th, they have to go to Jacksonville State for a first conference game, road test with the defending Conference USA champs in a hostile environment, people. September 20th, they got to play James Madison, a rivalry renewed. JMU is 12-6 all time versus Liberty, and this will be their first FBS meeting. October 8th at UTEP. It's going to be midweek madness for Liberty. Short rest, road trip, tricky game for the Flames. And last but not least, December the 5th, Conference USA Championship game week. If Liberty earns it, if they can navigate October and November, they'll be playing for a Conference USA title. March 1st is where everything gets kicked off, and the Flames need you at Williams Stadium. If you're a Liberty Flames fan, this is the first real look at the new era. This is your first chance to see who's stepping up, your first chance to see who's taking the reins, and this team is shaping its future right now, not later. The fire on the mountain isn't out. The fire in the mountain is not out. The embers are still burning, and the Flames are back. It just will be in a different way than what we're used to. Not like the 2023 season where we had the highest of the highs in the Fiesta Bowl. And not like last year, we had some gut-wrenching losses and then trying to weather back the storm at the end of the year, but it's not enough. Too little, too late. This version of the Flames is going to be different, but for donors, alumni, supporters, Liberty Flames fans all across the land, just know that the fire on the mountain isn't out. The embers are still burning. What's wavy? It's your boy Moan. You're tuning in the World of College Football, my podcast where we try to go into depth about stories all around the college football world, because it's not about the other conference solely. It's not about just the ACC solely. It's not about just the Big 12. It's about all of us, because we are one big college football ecosystem. We are one big ecosystem, man. We can't do it without the other people holding up their support. On Twitter, I kind of got grilled a little bit because I was like, man, we got two huge, just apex predators right now in the college football ecosystem, and they go by the name of the SEC and the Big Ten, and they're trying to just ruin things for everybody. So it's no longer a power 4, it's a power 2, because only 2 conferences have power. I'll let that sink in and let it marinate. KT, you ready to move? Let's go to the next one. I wanted to talk about the 2025 ACC schedule from a drone shot and from a microscopic point of view, because this ACC schedule for 2025 is loaded. It's not just another release. It's really a statement that a conference standing at a crossroads, caught between historic rivalries and the shifting landscape of college football, is doing their best to stay relevant. 17 teams, 26 Power 4 non-conference games, and 10 primetime Friday night games. The ACC is making sure everybody knows they're not going to be overlooked this year, and it's starting early. Battle lines are drawn, the gauntlet is set, and December 6th in Charlotte for the ACC championship will decide who survives all of the chaos. But at first, we get a 5-day college football marathon over college Labor Day weekend, a stocked non-conference state, and then we also get the nation's best league race where anyone can win the race. Anyone can fail. We saw it last year. I mean, ask Stanford, ask Syracuse, ask Georgia Tech. But before we get into it and paint the picture for you, let's take a drone shot out and look at this from a bigger picture perspective. When you look at this schedule on me, Labor Day sticks out so drastically. Like, we will get matchups like TCU versus North Carolina. First time I think they're playing. We'll get Georgia Tech versus Colorado coming up. We will get Syracuse versus Tennessee, Alabama versus Florida State. All eyes will be on the ACC. Now, when we talk about the overall health of the conference, When you're scheduling tough like this, I think it's going to make it easier for you. That's not even mentioning Clemson playing LSU in week 1 too. So I feel like they did an amazing job starting off fast and creating schedules that we know it's not going to be all balanced, but can it be something that gets the fans, gets people out there excited? I think yes, absolutely. Now that we took a look at the drone shot level, let's look at where we stand on a team by team basis for this ACC schedule. And I'll go into some of the things that I'm looking at from a microscopic view. Boston College. My thought process with Boston College: survive September, feast in November. Early road games at Michigan State on September the 6th, Pittsburgh on October the 4th will challenge them, but they have a soft November, including games versus Georgia Tech November the 15th, Syracuse November 29th. But this pushed them into bowl territory if they handle business down the stretch. CFB Nation key metric: Boston College is 5-1 in its last 6 home finales. Can they keep that trend alive? Up next, California. I labeled them the jet lag kings of the ACC. No one travels more miles than Cal. They fly to Boston College on September 27th. They have Virginia Tech on October 24th and Louisville on November the 9th before a season-ending rivalry showdown at Stanford on November the 22nd. CFB Nation key metric: Cal's road schedule covers over 15,000 miles, the most of any Power 4 team in 2025. Up next, Clemson. Championship or bust. An early showdown with LSU on August the 30th sets the tone, but Florida State on November the 8th and SMU on October the 18th, ACC championship game rematch, it's going to define the Tigers' return to Charlotte in December. CFP Nation key metric: Clemson has not lost a home game ACC since last year. And they have to get that right because Louisville still lingers in my mind. Up next, Duke. I labeled Duke a November minefield. After a light first half of their schedule, Duke gets hit with Clemson on November the 1st, Miami on November the 8th, North Carolina on November the 22nd. If they don't rack up early wins, they'll be fighting for their bowl lives at the end of the season. CFB Nation key metric: Duke has lost 6 straight games to UNC. Can they finally flip the script in 2025, year of our Lord? Up next, Florida State. I dubbed them the most watched team in the ACC. They host Alabama on opening week, travel to Stanford on October the 18th for a first ever matchup, which is amazing. They play Miami on October the 4th before facing Clemson on November the 8th. You survive those games, and they could be playoff bound. I know it's crazy to think that a Florida State team that did absolutely horrendous in 2024 could be playoff bound in 2025. CFB Nation key metric: Florida State is 7-2 against the SEC since 2016. Opening week, they got to play Alabama. Coming up next, Georgia Tech. Giant killers or middle of the pack? With matchups against Colorado on August the 30th, Florida State on November the 1st, and Georgia November 28th, clean old-fashioned hate, this team has plenty of chances to shake up the national picture. The question is, will they actually do it? We saw it plenty of times last year against Florida State in Dublin, Ireland. We saw it against Miami. But we also saw them fold plenty of times, like against Syracuse, for example, in the Carrier Dome. So it's up to us to see what we're going to get with Georgia Tech. But I'll say Brent Key is going to have the boys ready for 2025. CFB Nation key metric: Georgia Tech has beaten a ranked team in 14 of the last 15 seasons. I think it's going to happen again in 2025. Up next, Louisville, the title contenders that no one is talking about. They face Miami on Friday night, October the 17th, and Clemson on the road on October the 18th. If they win those, the ACC championship berth could very well be on the table for Louisville. CFB Nation key metric: Louisville is 3-0 versus ACC newcomers SMU, Stanford, and Cal. Talk about a welcome to the conference moment. Up next, Miami. The year we find out if they're really for real. They have Notre Dame on August the 31st. Primetime slot, by the way. Sunday game, if I'm not mistaken. Florida, September 20th. Florida State, October 4th. And they also have Stanford, October 25th. Miami either rises to national relevance or falls back into mediocrity. CFB Nation key metric. Miami hasn't beaten FSU and Florida in the same season since 2024. They're looking to change that in 2025. NC State, can't forget about you and your small sidelines. The ACC Ultimate Dark Horse resides at NC State. A favorable start leads to a massive Friday night showdown versus Florida State on November the 21st. This team could be ACC championship bound if they stay healthy. They also have a lot of changes happening right now in the midst, but at the core, I'm excited to see CJ Bailey's growth this year in 2025. CFB Nation key metric. NC State has the longest active bowl streak in the ACC at 11 years. Pick up next. Cold weather and cold-blooded upsets is my theme. Pitt closes with Notre Dame on November the 15th, Georgia Tech on November the 22nd, and Miami on November the 29th. That 3-game stretch, if they hold up, they'll be playing in a big-time bowl game, in my estimations. CFB Nation key metric. Pitt has beaten a top 10 team in 4 straight seasons. Does it happen in 2025? SMU, the wild card of the ACC. When the ACC schedule first dropped, I searched and I looked. I said, man, it's going to be hard pressed to try to find a team that has a harder schedule than SMU does. They rematched Clemson on October the 18th in a game that could define the ACC's title race. But their schedule is brutal. And Rhett Lashley is going to have to fight as the hunted this year. There's no more sneaking up on people. Everybody in the ACC knows who you are, SMU. So be prepared. Be very prepared. CFB Nation key metric. SMU was 3-0 versus top 25 teams last season. What would their record be in 2025? Syracuse, a brutal path to bowl season. A game against Tennessee on August the 30th in Atlanta, opening week, is a massive measuring stick game. But I'll say this. Syracuse ain't one of them other schools that's out there like Nebraska, ducking games, non-conference. Syracuse wants all the smoke. They also got late season battles against Miami on November the 8th, North Carolina on October the 31st on Halloween. They could be fighting for a bowl bid. I know it will be tough, but you never put anything past Van Brown. CFB Nation key metric. Syracuse is 9-2 in its last 11 home openers. Do they start the season off hot versus Tennessee? Guess we got to wait and see. The ACC is going to be a proving ground, a war zone, a test of survival. The path to Charlotte is paved with upsets, just littered all over the place. You got teams like North Carolina, Bill Belichick's Tar Heel takeover. He's one of the biggest stories in college football and a huge revelation in Chapel Hill already. The arrival of Bill Belichick as a head coach is sent shockwaves to college football. His debut comes against TCU on Labor Day, September the 1st, in primetime, people. He has games against Clemson on October the 4th, Duke, November the 22nd, and NC State on November the 29th. And that is going to decide his fate, whether this team is a contender or they're just a headline. CFB Nation key metric for UNC. UNC has played in 3 of the last 4 ACC titles, but hasn't won one. Can they make it back? Only time will tell, my friend. Stanford. The Cardinals start with a Hawaii road trip August the 23rd and then host Boston College on September the 13th. I labeled them coast to coast chaos. First ever matchups against Florida State on October the 13th and Miami on October the 25th. It's going to show if they're built for this league. CFB Nation key metric. Stanford is 2-0 in his last 2 games versus ACC teams. They were already a thorn in a couple of teams' side last year. I ain't going to say no names, but you know who you are. Look out for Stanford this year. They still got elite returning production coming back. Virginia, the big mystery team of in the ACC. Virginia's schedule is manageable, but matchups against Stanford, September 20th. They also have a matchup versus Cal on November the 1st. We'll test them early. The annual showdown versus Virginia Tech, November 29th, could be a bowl game decider. And CFB Nation key metric, Virginia hasn't beaten Virginia Tech since 2019. They are desperately trying to change that in 2025, year of our Lord. I just talked about them. Virginia Tech, after missing a bowl game last year, the Hokies get a shot at redemption versus South Carolina in Atlanta on August the 31st to start the year off. Rivalry games versus NC State, circle it on the calendar, September 27th. Virginia, November the 29th. Circle it on your calendar. This is going to be a must-watch team in the ACC. I know they let us down because we had a lot of heavy stock in Virginia Tech this past year. However, Virginia Tech has won 5 of its last 6 season openers. CFB Nation key metric. Does it happen this year versus South Carolina opening week? We talked about Wake Forest a little bit, but Wake Forest might be the most overlooked team in the league. They kick off on a Friday night, August the 29th versus Kennesaw State and new coach Jerry Mack before road test at NC State on September the 11th and Florida State on November 1st. If they stay afloat early, maybe they can sneak into a solid bowl game. I don't really have the highest expectations for Wake Forest, but CFB Nation key metric, Wake Forest has played in 7 straight bowl games, the longest in school history. So they keep just churning it out, chugging along. We'll find out if a lot of these teams are for real, but that is my microscopic viewpoint of each team in the ACC and some of the themes that I have heading into the 2025 season, because it's going to be a proving ground, a war zone, and a test for survival. Path of Charlotte is going to have upsets, bad blood, legacies, rivalries, and to be honest with you, a lot of controversy. Jim Phillips, I might have been critiquing you in the past for how you handled Florida State and them getting left out of the college football playoff. But with a schedule like this, I think I got to shake your hand on it. I shake your hand and say, great job on the schedule. It's not even, but it is spicy. And I think that the ACC football this year is going to deliver a season for the ages. What's wavy? It's your boy Moon. You tune in the World of College Football, a podcast where we go into depth about all the stories going on around the college football world, because it's not just about one team. It's about all of us joined together. On this episode, I got a chance to cover FIU and the rebirth of FIU football. I got a chance to cover the Flames, Liberty, that is, and their fight to reignite. I got to talk about the ACC schedule in depth, going from a drone shot view and a microscopic view on each team, some of the notable games that stick out to me on their schedule. If you're enjoying this content, make sure you hit that follow button, subscribe, leave a comment, most importantly, so we can keep this conversation going. And until next time, make sure you check out our sponsor, BetUS, because you can get 125% deposit match on your first deposit using the promo code CFB Nation. Yes, sir. Until me, Moon, wave us ever do it, send you off into your day, and sign out on another amazing episode of World of College Football.
Look at you out here using all these other sports books and you ain't even using the best one. BetUS, get 125% match bonus when you use the promo code CFB Nation. Yeah, you heard me correctly, 125% match bonus on your first deposit using that code CFB Nation. We know that college football is in the off season, even though we don't celebrate that. You know, CFB Nation, we do college football 24/7, but there are plenty of things for you guys to bet on.
Who will have the most wins, OKC Thunder or Cleveland Cavaliers? Can Luka and LeBron make it all mesh to make it to the play-in tournament? Maybe you're a college basketball guy ready to risk it all for Florida to make it to the big dance.
Basketball isn't for you? Maybe you're a football guy. Well, BetUS got you covered with this year's UEFA Championship. Can Liverpool or Barcelona win it all? Will Erling Haaland or Harry Kane lead their teams to victory?
May is going to get popping when the Kentucky Derby hits town. BetUS has you covered in that way too, with all major horse racing events. Point is, type in that promo code CFB Nation and go get that money.